kids cardiac. Catch me in the Muni where the party at. Dog pound, turn up with the elf up on my starter cap. Brought him back, boy, we from the land and we proud of that. Louder man, front to the back, here we go, I got him shouting that. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Stand up. Here we go, brownies. Let's go. Game on the line, Joe Thomas, I promise. Jim Brown running through opponents, how I got this. I return like Josh Cripps. Hand for the mini, got the dog pound jumping. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Stand up. Here we go, brownies. Let's go.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Mr. Hero's turning 60. We're proud to have served your favorite cravings for 60 years in celebrating what we do best. Thanks, Ohio.
I crave a hero.
Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast live tonight. Allie is a little under the weather, so you get Dustin and David, Dr. David, to talk all things Browns head coaches, search, and all those great things. As you know, David, for Allie to take a show off, she's got to be under the weather. So here we go.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to step in for her. And you're exactly right. She is the toughest cookie, and so knowing that she's got to take a night off tells you something. So that's all right. We got plenty to talk about, and I've got enough experience behind the camera and microphone that I think I can handle it.
Yeah, and if we do something wrong, she'll tell us we did it wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Let's jump into it. Let's talk a little bit about this. We got coaches already in Berea, been here, internal staff. 6 we've actually interviewed, a few more requested. So let's just jump into it, David. Let's talk about the internal candidates first. Shall we go? Because those are kind of basically the low-hanging fruit. And then let's go with Tommy Rees. Obviously, there's some belief that they may want to keep him in the building. Also, we know that, Stefanski's building his own staff as well, as we know, so he may want to take some of these guys with him, even Schwartz. So let's talk about that. Tommy Rees, what do you think about that interview? Just given it, and I don't know if it was, I don't want to call it a courtesy type of interview, but he got the interview nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, it's a professional organization. Like, they don't have to interview anybody they don't want to. So giving him an interview, it's probably more than just a courtesy, just because they believe in the guy. There's still a lot to be learned about Tommy Rees. I mean, he's 33. He took over play calling week 10. And so we don't really know just what truly his offense would look like without Kevin in the building. And so, we obviously saw him in Bama for 1 year and then at Notre Dame for 3 or 4 years, but he's young. He's pretty green, but I think he definitely has a decent resume. I just, if I were the one picking, I don't think it would be my first choice. I think, a lot of this comes back to kind of like the thousand mile view of like what you want in the next Browns head coach. Do you want to try and take a risk on an up and comer and someone who maybe has a little bit of creativity, who, isn't currently established? Or are we looking for someone that needs to be like an established coach to just kind of right the ship and be more of a culture guy that can kind of command respect and leadership right away? If that's what you're looking for, Tommy's not the guy. But there's at least familiarity. So, I think with a lot of these, I could be convinced or talked into it, but he is not certainly top of the list or maybe even top 3 for me.
Yeah, and for me, if you don't hire him, he's not going to be retained on staff, because if you bring a guy in as the head coach, he's going to build his own staff. Now, I do think there is, and we'll get that. This will be the next part we get into. I think there is belief inside the building. If they can keep Schwartz, that would be ideal to keep that gel and nucleus there. So we'll go, Schwartz gets an interview. And then intriguingly, he takes an interview with the Baltimore Ravens as well. And I think that got some of the Browns faithful a little shook. No, we don't need him going over there and building up a great defense. and then I'll ask you this question. I think there is this belief, maybe internally and externally with the Browns, that you want to maybe catch lightning in a bottle with that young offensive guru type of guy. And then I think there's like, no, Browns have done that, tried that. I think we need a guy that is a leader of men that can come in right away and be that established guy that earns and demands that respect on day one. Schwartz is that guy, right? He's already respected in the building by ownership, Andrew Berry. I personally think he was kind of picked by Andrew Berry because he did come from the Eagles. So, he's a Berry guy. Berry believes in him full force. So what are your thoughts on that interview and kind of where that's going to kind of go? And like I said, Stefanski, if he builds the staff, I mean, there's nothing saying that he can't go get Schwartz if he doesn't get a head coaching job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if I had to pick between the two, if we're going just the internal interviews, and let's say these are your two candidates, you only get to pick one, Jim Schwartz is my guy for head coach. He's done it before. We know it was with the Lions from 2009 to 13. Took the Lions to their first playoff appearance in over a decade when he was there. And that Lions team led the league in, I think, interceptions or turnovers that year. So we know he's got the chops and he's a defensive-minded coach, and he has established himself that way. That being said, he hasn't been a head coach since 2013. So, I mean, it's been 12. And, when it comes to overall experience, he's got it. He's been 17 seasons as a defensive coordinator alone between Browns, Titans, and Bills. And so he's got the experience. He's got kind of the right culture, the right mindset. It's just, is he more of a career coordinator guy than a head coach, which at least for the last 12 years, it seems like that's what the league has believed in terms of where he's been offered jobs and hired. But I think if I'm choosing between the two, I'm definitely looking more Jim Schwartz's way. And to kind of go back on your comment, and we'll get into it more, but about what we're looking for, whether the Browns would make a splash hire and get the offensive guy. There's so much involved in this decision. And I think there's some news today that we can discuss later on impacting the draft and the quarterbacks available that I think makes a big difference. Because if you want to bring in a splash hire, the offensive guy who's really going to kind of maybe take the league by storm, I think you need to have one of two things. You either need to have an established veteran quarterback, someone who's been around in the league. So think like the Jags, Liam Cohen, who already had Trevor, who's been around for a while and is an established guy. So that way you have a quarterback who's ready to go, or you need to have a number 1 or number 2 overall pick and get that top quarterback in the draft to kind of take the league by storm with you. The Browns don't have either of those things right now.
Right.
Sure, there's a veteran in the room in Deshaun Watson, but we don't know if he's ever going to play another snap. And right now with the number 6 overall pick, it does not look like a quarterback is in their future for this upcoming draft. So I really would like to see them go away from the idea of a splash hire, young offensive mind trying to, surprise the league, and really just find a guy to right the ship and just come in and be ready to roll with whatever they have and take charge.
Yeah, and I think if you bring in someone like Schwartz, getting back to that guy, leader of men, maybe he can get lucky and find that offensive upcoming coordinator, because, he's not going to want to. I mean, that's been the biggest argument with Stefanski was give up the play calling, quit it, let somebody else run the plays. I think Schwartz would be like, absolutely, I'm a defensive minded guy. Someone else can call the plays. Maybe someone like Schwartz can go find that guy and build his staff, right? What's interesting, some of the things I've heard is, well, if Schwartz gets the job, he probably promotes the linebacker coach, defensive coordinator, because of what he's done with the linebacking crew. And then he goes out and finds an offensive staff, or keeps some of, depending on who Stefanski takes or doesn't take with that job. So that is interesting in the fact that I think they're torn, right? Because that's the one thing is this league is really leaning towards, other than a handful of like the Andy Reids and some of these other guys, this is a very young head coach league. I mean, you could just see it sprinkled all over the league. So I think there's some pressure to find that next Shanahan, right? Like someone that's going to be that guy for the Browns. And we'll get into one of those guys on that list. But I think they are kind of torn because you're right. You don't have a quarterback, right? You don't have a guy that can just go in there and just do that, So
yeah, I like that idea. If they take the approach with, letting Jim Schwartz kind of take over as head coach, because he has this team's respect. And then, you can maybe make more of a splash hire, find the next young up and comer, like you said, and then just kind of a transitional thing going from Schwartz to when he's ready to step down, then you've got an offensive guy to kind of take the lead. But Obviously, that is an ideal world, and we certainly do not live in one.
I wish we did, because we would still have a head coach. So yeah, let's talk about this. This person's a little polarizing. Mike McDaniel, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, obviously was here with the Browns in 2014, I believe, for 2 years as the wide receivers coach, and then has been around the league for here and there, and then landed in Miami as the head coach for the last 4 years, I believe, possibly 5 years.
Yes, like since 2022 through 25, so 4 seasons.
Yeah. So, and here, I'll just call it, I'm going to take the glass half full on this, on Mike McDaniel. I'll go with Tua, and that offense was a mess when he got there, and what he was able to, now, of course, he had Tyreek Hill and some big weapons there, but what he was able to do with that offense and get the most out of Tua, that part impresses me. About a guy like this, an offensive-minded guy that can come in and maybe right the ship and, maybe get the most out of a Shedeur Sanders or another quarterback, right? Like, I think like that's the kind of guy that could do that. The other side of it is they kind of regressed the last couple of years, and that stick kind of wore out. So what are your opinions on Mike and what he could bring to the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, at the surface, like, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no thanks, especially watching this season and kind of just the way the Dolphins kind of, crumbled, were up and down, and just things did not look good. I mean, he watched on the sideline or in his press conferences after games, and it's like, what is this guy on? Like, he just looks like he's kind of struggling, and maybe a change of scenery is exactly what he needs. I mean, he's 42. He was 35-33 overall in 4 seasons with the Dolphins. And I mean, his worst year was the most recent year, but they still had a top 10 defense, allowing 314 yards per game this year. He took the Dolphins to back-to-back playoff appearances in 22 and 23, which is the first time since 2000 and 2001 for Miami. So he's got some experience coaching both regular season and playoffs with some pretty high profile players, like you said, Tua and Tyreek, and then the guys they had on defense. And so he's a schemer. I mean, he is a football nerd for sure. And, we think we like that. I know people say kind of Kevin was a schemer too, but I think in a totally different way. Right. And again, he's one of those guys he's not at the top of my list, but obviously we know he's kind of gotten a lot of steam recently in terms of the rumor mill and what looks like is coming down for the Browns. But obviously this process is not over. And I think, again, a similar thing where I could be talked into him. It's not like this is his first time head coaching. It would be his second head coaching job. And he's at least proven it. So maybe a change of scenery, keeping, with the idea that we need an offensive guy to kind of help Shedeur through his second year. Mm-hmm. I don't hate it after I dissect it a little bit more, but I still don't think would be my first choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, and let's give a couple shout outs to our sponsors. If we can get a couple of those pulled up, we'll start talking about some of our sponsors. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag that you get, obviously, with someone like Mike McDaniels. He's got the experience. He's been in the building before. Mm-hmm. So there's that. So interesting enough. So our great friends over at City Barbecue right here in Northeast Ohio, with 6 Northeast Ohio locations. If you're planning for the big game coming up, or the playoffs, or any other event, if you got wedding receptions, bridal showers, or if you're just wanting to go for lunch or pick it up for the weekend, go to City Barbecue. Also, not only in Northeast Ohio, but all throughout Ohio, down into Columbus as well. Stadium Mustard, if you don't have it, you're doing it wrong. From backyards to ballparks all across the country, stadiummustard.com. Go there to get it. Or if you don't have it in your local establishment, ask for it. That's stadiummustard.com. Primetime. Yeah, this is great, guys. I got a couple announcements here for you. Big signings are coming to Primetime. Next Tuesday, join us next Tuesday. That's right. Harold Fannin Jr. will be there at Belden Village Mall in Canton. Then, that's right, they're doing a private signing with T.O. And then Jameis Winston, going to love that. He's coming January 31st. Primetime will also on January 25th have Ricky Williams, Heisman Trophy winner. Dennis Rodman will be there that same day. Sean Kemp will be there on that Saturday before. And then 2-time world champion Kirk Gibson, the baseball player, will be there. So they are bringing in a lot of great guys down there. at Great Northern Mall and the Belden Village Mall. So give me the next one you want to cover there, David, on the list. Give me one and we'll kind of go through that.
Yeah, so I mean that's 3 of the interviews so far. There's 3 more we can look at, and we talked about a little bit last week. But I mean, let's stick with the younger guys and look at Dan Pitcher. So offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, currently been in that role since 2024. He was the QB's coach or assistant from 2020 to 2023, and then the 2019 game clock manager, 2018 offensive assistant with QBs and wide receivers prior to that. So he has been in Cincinnati since 2016, and he is definitely he's the OC, and he's handled a pretty explosive offense. I like this from the standpoint of that. I mean, he's had obviously two terrific wide receivers, and Joe, and he's done some pretty good work with them. And I don't think the Bengals' failures have been any part of the offensive side of the ball. We know that defense has always struggled. They don't want to pay their players. It's a very strange leadership situation down there. And so I like this from. He's familiar with the division. He's dealt with some pretty great players and found some success on the offensive side of the ball. But again, this would be his first time as a head coach, and that is one of the more not scary things, but I guess one of the downsides when it comes to him as a prospect. And just another reason why I don't know. I don't know what the best option is, but if he comes around and like this is a big option for him, I'm intrigued and I could be sold on it, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
So it's interesting, right? It's within the division, a guy that's obviously been there with Joe Burrow and helping out there. And remind me, does Zach call the plays in Cincinnati? I'm trying to remember if Zach Taylor is the play caller or if he is a play caller. I can't remember, but
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah. So I'm just, what are you getting with him, right? Is this a guy that just is offensive coordinator in name only, right? So, or is it the guy that's actually pulling the plays? So I like where the Browns, I feel like other than a couple, the Browns have been going young, right? In these interviews, that has definitely been trending, except for obviously Schwartz. And we'll see. I mean, this process is still ever evolving. I feel like every day we're going to find something else. But I like it. But again, I don't know, and you may not know this answer either. Is he getting any other opportunities for head coaching interviews in the league? I don't think he is.
And that's a great question. As far as I know, I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't think he is. So that was kind of my at first nervousness. Is he? Because I always think the Browns think they're the cutest, and innovative at times. Yeah. But if other people were giving him that same nod, like, well, he's definitely a hot commodity, then I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, according to Tyler Sullivan and Garrett Podell on CBSSports.com, I searched his name, and they've got a tracker of all of the coaching interviews and or interview requests, and the Browns are the only team to have either interviewed him or requested an interview with him. So it's a great point, Dustin. I mean, he's kind of an under-the-radar guy in this coaching search, and is that too much of a risk?
Right. Well, but here, and we'll get into this later, but nobody saw John Harbaugh as a head coach on the Ravens, when they hired him 18 years ago, right? Like who is this guy, right? And I think it's what a lot of these teams are looking at. Like, can we find that guy that's going to be that, guy that nobody's looking at, that we figured out that he's the future of the NFL. So, yeah, for me on him, just because he isn't getting a lot of traction. But with that said, there are a lot of guys that don't get traction and end up being great coaches in the National Football League. I mean, that just sometimes happens. People do their homework. They listen to other people. So I'm kind of on that one. So, yeah, that one might be one of the least intriguing. More than Tommy Rees, maybe, but not as much as some of the other guys. So Go ahead. Let's do the
two guys that have been interviewed are AD Aiden Durde. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he goes by AD. 46 years old, Seahawks defensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons. Was with the Cowboys on the D line from 21 to 23, and then prior to that was over in the UK. He was the lead for football development of NFL UK from 2015 to 2018, and the defensive coordinator for the London Warriors from 2011 to 2016. So kind of an interesting perspective on this guy. Has not been in the U.S. coaching for that long, but certainly has been involved with the NFL in one way or another.
Right.
It would be his first time as a head coach. So I think this is kind of similar to Dan Pitcher. So you're correct in the sense that Zach Taylor, he's the play caller. He's not Dan Pitcher.
Okay.
So he's offensive coordinator by name, but he's not calling plays. I think this is a similar thing with the Seahawks. While he may be the defensive coordinator, McDonald, I think, that's his defense, and like he came from the Ravens, and he is the guy there in terms of like what that defense is doing and scheming. And so I put this in the same group as Dan Pitcher with what you just said in terms of how much I like it. I think he's getting a little bit more attention than Dan Pitcher is when it comes around to interviews around the NFL just in general. With one other team, I guess he interviewed with the Falcons as well. So,
which is kind of interesting because I think some people feel like maybe Stefanski might have the inside track on the Falcons as the next head coach, but it's interesting like that they brought a defensive guy in, and it makes you wonder, are they just doing some window dressing? Because I don't think he would come over to the Browns if like Schwartz was hired. Like, I don't think he'd do a lateral move. It would definitely have to be a head coach thing. So I don't know. I think if they're really interviewing a guy like that, I think they're seriously looking at a head coaching kind of guy in that situation. Yep. So I don't know. It's interesting. He's a little bit older. He's been, like you said, he's at least been through a little bit of but again, he's not moving me at all, David, at all. He's not really moving me. That's not. I agree.
And then the last guy who's been interviewed at this point is Todd Monken. Familiar with him, obviously. He's 59 years old, Ravens offensive coordinator for the last 3 seasons. He was at Georgia prior to then and then was with the Browns in 2019. No head coaching experience in the NFL. Overall, 37 seasons as a coach with 11 in the NFL. His only head coaching stint was at Southern Miss from 2013 to 2015. Certainly a much more experienced guy. Familiar with the team, but again, more like a Jim Schwartz kind of coordinator for life kind of scenario. And he has only been interviewed or requested to be interviewed by the Browns. So similar to the last couple, he's not making a ton of splashes otherwise. And you never know. The Ravens may be like, hey, we have an established commodity here. We're just going to promote him to head coach in Harbaugh's absence. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but he's the last on that list of the guys that have been interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. And I guess because of his experience, if they don't give Schwartz the job and then give Monken the job and Schwartz decides to stay, I think that's a pretty good combination in Cleveland. If you have Monken and Schwartz as your head coach and offensive coordinator, 2 guys that really, get it, right? Like these are 2 guys that have been seasoned veterans, will also come in and demand respect. And let's just be honest. I mean, what they've been able to do with Lamar Jackson in that offense, I think that's, bodes well for him. I don't know. I know there were some rumblings with Harbaugh. One of the reasons that he was out, that he was pretty hard pressed wanting to keep his coordinators. And that was kind of like one of the things that was kind of didn't go well, basically, like it's you or your coordinators. So who knows? Yeah. But no, I like that one out of all of them other than Schwartz so far. He's a guy that kind of, for me, rises to the top just because of his experience. And again, can maybe come in here and write this offense since it's dead last in the NFL and needs to go somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. So those are all the interviews that have been conducted to date. Just to kind of go over the remaining requests. There are 4, at least, that I've seen listed. Nate Scheelhaas, the Rams passing game coordinator. Don't know much about this guy. He's been mostly in college from 2015 to 2023 and with the Rams since 24. I don't know. Not something I'm interested in. Like, I could see him maybe being an offensive coordinator candidate, but not for head coach. Jesse Minter, Chargers DC, pretty familiar with him. Was at Michigan and Vanderbilt prior to that, and Ravens for 3 years otherwise. He's interviewing on Friday, so that one's pretty interesting. I think he's a very interesting prospect because it'll be his first time head coaching, but he's 42. So, I mean, he's not quite, NFL middle age when it comes to coaching, but he's got a lot of experience. But again, that's going to be a scenario where Schwartz will no longer be in the building, if that's even a possibility. And we're very much so speculating here. And then the other 2 interview requests are Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator, and Grant Udinsky, the Jags offensive coordinator. Right.
So Shula clearly, comes with the pedigree, like the Kubiaks of the world in the coaching tree. Let's talk about Udinsky a little bit. Like, I think that's one of the ones that's getting a lot of buzz. We talked on offline before we came on the show. He literally turned 30 years old 2 days ago. So he is a young 30. But is this that genie in a bottle, right? This guy is like propelling to the top. And if you don't get him, you're one of those teams that look back and go, well, he was in the building and we didn't hire him. Like we had our shot at him and we didn't get him. A guy like that, what he's been able to do with that offense, and I guess where I kind of want to go with this is the Jaguars were kind of a hot mess last year and even before that with when Urban Meyer was there and didn't get Trevor Lawrence right. And I think a lot of people were even like, is Trevor Lawrence going to be able to kind of come back in the league and find his way and be the quarterback that everybody thought he could be? I mean, look, clearly they did, right? I think he came in. He's well respected. He's an alpha kind of guy from what I hear in the room. You could sign me up for this quite transparently if he's the guy that you really think could be like that up and coming guy that could clearly build an offensive and be really innovative, right? Again, that's a word I think that probably would stand out. Can this guy be innovative and really turn this offense into something dynamic? I would be okay with it. So I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this guy, because he's got a lot of buzz. And by the way, if you want to, has he got any other interview requests? I'm just curious on that.
Yeah, I will. I'll pull it up in a second. I mean, it's definitely one of those kind of flash in the pan. Is this going to be a splash hire that makes a huge difference? So he was with the Vikings from 22 to 24 as a assistant quarterbacks coach. And so, he probably has a little bit to do with Trevor's newfound success or kind of turnaround in his career. He is not the play caller, though. I mean, Cohen is calling the plays out there. So similar to the conversations we have about some other guys. But, they've definitely together made a big difference and turned that team around. Obviously, he had a quick exit in the playoffs this past weekend, but still really, really fun and exciting to see that team is having success. At least according to the guys at CBS Sports I talked about earlier, he's not even listed for the Browns as an interview, so they're not the most up to date. But it was a couple hours ago.
Right, that broke a couple hours ago. Yeah. Yeah.
So at least as of when that was posted or updated a couple hours ago, nobody else has looked for interviews with him. But again, we're pretty early into the coaching search still, so I think we're going to see a lot of things change. It's exciting, and he's a quarterback guy, it seems like, and that's, I think, what the Browns need. They need someone who can, just like Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, who can kind of take quarterbacks and shape and mold them and get their career to kind of turn around. He's done that with a couple guys that we've seen. So I could be convinced. I could be talked into it. But yeah, so those are all of the interviews or interview requests that we've gone through. So Dustin, just to kind of wrap up the coaching search discussion, other guys who either haven't been interviewed or requested yet that you would like to maybe see the Browns talk to, who would you pick out of the hat from other guys that are available right now? Yeah, so obviously John Harbaugh was in the building in New York today. He's confirmed that hire. I would take him in a slam dunk. Like, if I'm Jimmy Haslam, roll out the money, back up the Brink truck. Let's, for crying out loud, his parents are from Cleveland. His mom and dad went to a Browns game for their honeymoon. Let me say that again. Went to a Browns game for their honeymoon. So he knows this area like this guy, like he would be like, they'd build a statue for him, right, if he won a Super Bowl there. Because and it should be full circle because, of course, the Ravens became the Orthodox Browns, and he could, be like, hey, we had to bring him in to bring us a Super Bowl championship. Yeah. That's a guy that I would be, if I'm the Browns, and I'll just say this, even at the risk of losing Andrew Berry, I try to get Harbaugh in the building. And because I know he's been doing some preliminaries, right? We know that he's been doing these phone calls with multiple teams like, hey, I'm this guy. This is what I want. I've been 18 years in the league, 12 playoff wins. I have a Super Bowl trophy. Like, he can demand, right? Like, he can demand, and I'm okay with that. But that is a guy that I'd be all in on if we have a shot at the table, because, if he leaves New York and they don't sign him, I've always been in the belief, if you get him in the building, you don't let him leave, and you see if you can get him to sign a contract if he ends up coming in. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you entirely, and I think kind of more tongue in cheek here. I think it would be total full circle moment to hire the guy who came from what your team used to be, the original Browns team, and maybe that will end the curse of Lake Erie, bring things full circle, and get him in the building. Now more seriously, I agree. I think what I would love to see the Browns do this season is to go out and find that established, respected coach, get him in the building, spend whatever it costs, because it's not going to impact your salary cap.
Nope.
Just see if getting an established coach actually is what this team needs and has needed all along. I mean, you look at the list of head coaches since 1999, and I mean, sure, there's some guys who had some experience and some chops around the league, but nobody who's a Super Bowl winner, nobody who's been established for this long. And so I think if they can get it, they have to do it. And like you said, at the expense of Andrew Berry, because he's already kind of made it clear that he wants to have his say in who his GM is going to be. Okay, so be it. Here's your check. Let's go.
And to that point, you can promote Andrew Berry to president of football operations or whatever, and give him the GM / AKA coach. I mean, you can do that still, and you can still have that kind of tree, right? That works harmoniously. And honestly, let Berry do what Berry, let Berry cook. He's really good at manipulating the salary cap. He's really good at doing those types of things, and let Harbaugh, build the team and let him do the finance part, because Andrew Berry is a whiz at that, right? Like, he has found ways to not bankrupt us and have Deshaun Watson on this football team. Like, it's incredible what he's been able to do with the salary cap and still bring guys in to help on the defensive line and the off. Like, he's been able to still do that in spite of being basically handcuffed to be able to do anything financially. But he's found ways and unique ways to do it. Honestly, I would also be okay with a couple other things, like some dark horse candidates. Like, I think John Gruden's going to be coaching in the National Football League again within the next couple of years. Even Barstool has said they think they're going to lose him because he is going to coach again. Again, there's a guy that's an alpha guy that comes in the room, demands respect. And you know what? I'm making the call no matter which way the game goes on Monday night in college football. I'm giving Cignetti a call, because there's a guy that we're watching in real life, a team that was, you want to talk about, the Browns have forever been stuck, right? Basically in second gear and can't get further. Think about that. There's a guy that 3 years ago, they had 10,000 people in the stands. 3 years later, they're playing in the national championship game, and they don't have 5 or 4-star guys. What he's been able to do with that football team is crazy, right? Like, okay, if he can do that in Indiana, how could he not do that in the pros? Like, right? Like, by the way, you don't have all the, this college is like recruitment and all this crazy stuff. He's 64 years old. He would have a much, easier, clock to run in Cleveland. But man, imagine that guy coming in and, with that scowl looking across the field, when a guy goes offsides. I'm all for that.
Yeah, listen, obviously it would be amazing. What he's done in Indiana is nothing short of a miracle. Turning around the worst college football program of all time, and 2 years later, them to the national championship. That being said,
Browns have been like the worst team in the expansion era. I'm just saying,
they have. But when you look at college guys trying to take the next step up and move over to the NFL, recently there hasn't been much success. You look at probably one of the greatest coaches of all time in Urban Meyer. Took multiple teams to national championships, winning national championships, and fell flat on his face in Jacksonville. So I hesitate with that, and certainly I love the idea and just the speculation and kind of dreaming about that, but I don't know how realistic it really is. A couple guys in my mind that I think we touched on a little bit last week, but I'm really intrigued by Clint Kubiak in Seattle. He is the offensive guy there. We know that their head coach is a defensive-minded guy, and he's got at least a great pedigree in his dad being, an NFL coach for quite some time. And he's done remarkable things with that offense. They've got Sam Darnold kind of really turned his career around, obviously in Minnesota prior, but now coming there. And then the things he's been able to do with JSN and just get him involved in the offense and get him creatively schemed up. I like that, and I would love to see the Browns kind of explore that. And then, just some other guys around the league too that we haven't talked about. But I think, we've done a good, we're just into it. We're a week into this, or a couple weeks into this, and there makes to be more firings coming. And I think the Browns are what it seems like is slow playing this and going to wait it out. I mean, some guys like Cohen, I think, got hired January 28th or 29th last year. And so and I think McDonald the year before that was like January 31st. And so it's okay to wait. It's okay to take your time because the playoffs are still happening and you don't necessarily want to be the first to hire. I don't think you have to be the first to hire. And I'm excited about it. And I mean, I think, it's let's just hope they don't mess it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you bring up a good point. This is, Stefanski, I think he'll always be praised with being a coach through kind of a hell time, during all this time in Cleveland, right? With the Deshaun Watson trade. I mean, he had to navigate some crazy stuff and still got 2-time coach of the year and went to the playoffs twice, right? Like, that's saying something, right? But it really regressed the last couple of seasons and just wasn't, and Jimmy Haslam said, this was tough. This was hard. Probably just because he was a good human being. And he was like, I will be shocked if he's not a head coach in this league, right? And to my point, some people just reach that point. Now, here's what's crazy to me. There are 9 head coaching vacancies in the National Football League. 9.
Yep.
This is the most that we've had in a long time. And to your point, it's like who blinks first, right? Because to your point, do you hire early or do you hire later? Because I think everybody's kind of waiting on John Harbaugh, what's going to happen with that. And then I think the decks kind of start to shuffle through. I'm hearing that Tomlin may take a TV gig and not go right into coaching. So clearly that takes him out of the equation from the coaching standpoint. But I don't know if you saw this, just some tidbits, but the owner of the Ravens said if he made that kick, would John Harbaugh still be a coach here? And he said for one more week. I'm like, whoa, like that's something to say to the press. I mean, that's crazy to me. Like, yeah, whenever he's done in the playoffs, he's done. Like that's not, and the fact that allegedly with reports he got fired on the way home on the phone. So the whole thing is just wild to me, like how that all went down. But is there anybody else, David, for you? And then we'll get into some sponsor reads after I ask you this question. Is there anybody else out there from a dark horse that we haven't heard of that comes out of nowhere that you think the Browns may be kind of keeping under wraps? Do you think there's anybody out there? Like, I'm surprised Mike McCarthy hasn't even got a look. And here's the thing. Maybe he hasn't got a look because he's told everybody, no, I'm not taking a coaching job this year. But I'm just curious. Right. Is there anybody out there that you're surprised isn't getting a phone call or getting an interview, or somebody you think, we could bring in like a dark horse kind of person?
I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure that they're hiding some things up their sleeve in terms of coaches who maybe they haven't publicly announced or aren't as popular or out there on the current list of coaches. I off the top of my head, I don't have any great candidates for that. I mean, you kind of brought up a couple. Anybody else that I've got in mind we've talked about already. But I guess at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more pop up that we just weren't expecting or weren't anticipating to come around. Yeah,
it makes me wonder, is anybody from the college ranks going to, I know the Notre Dame coach was put out there and then he kind of put to rest that. I'm just wondering if there's any of these other head coaches, in college that may want to take a job or, be in the loop for that. But that's the problem. It's been a mixed bag. To your point, you brought up these head coaches that at the college level go to the NFL level. It's kind of a mix, how well they've done. A lot of them have not panned out. I mean, you can look at a lot of them. Butch Davis with Miami. I mean, you go back a long time. Along with these head coaches, it's a different breed and a different animal going from college to NFL.
Yep, it is. It's tough.
Yeah, let's do a couple reads. If we can do a couple more reads, that's right. Crystal Gentoni with eXp Realty. If you're looking to buy some investment property or looking to look for a house, Cleveland was voted one of the most affordable places in the country to buy a house. Give her a call at 216-215-6663. She'll take care of you over there. And by the way, one of our newer sponsors, the original Steaks and Hoagies, authentic cheese steaks. That's right. Multiple locations all over Cleveland. Great if you're looking. By the way, their cheesesteak's amazing. I've had it. They make fresh ingredients all the time. Great food, great people from Philly to the land. Go check them out. The original Steaks and Hoagies. And of course, We Bleed Ohio. Get your Cleveland Browns apparel. Check them out over there if you want football, basketball, baseball, or Here We Go Brownies t-shirts or hoodies. Go check them out and get their gear over there. Let's go. You want to talk a little bit around the league with some other coaches and coaching hires, or where do you want to go, David? What are you thinking?
Well, just one other thing about coaches I'd like to bring up, and I'm surprised we didn't do it. It wasn't the first thing. Is just the way the AFC North has completely flipped upside down. I mean, this is crazy. There is one coach remaining, and it's probably not the one that everyone had on their bingo card to be the only one left at the end of the season. I mean, when I the last time the Steelers and Ravens had a head coaching vacancy was, 17 and 18 years ago. I was not even 20 years old yet. Like in my lifetime, like that I can like actually remember and like have good memories of watching football. It's always been Tomlin and Harbaugh. And so this is crazy. I mean, the two witches of the North are gone. I mean, Browns fans should be like celebrating and jumping for joy because the division is wide open now. And if they get this coaching hire right, like they can maybe make, turn this division around for the next decade to come. So it's just amazing. And I'd love to know if you were surprised by Tomlin stepping down or not. I mean, for me, I think it made sense. I think both when you said what you said about Harbaugh earlier and how he'd be coaching for one more game, according to the owner, for both of them, their time was up. I mean, yes, they've had success. Yes, they're always in the playoffs, but like, when's the last time Tomlin won a playoff game? When's the last time he actually made it any further than either the divisional round or the wild card round? And it's great to have a winning season, so many seasons in a row, but at some point, like you got to figure something more or better has to be out there. So I'm not surprised by either of them happening. It's just quite a shock to see this change happen at the same time in the same offseason.
Yeah, so I have an interesting perspective on that because you're right. For 18 and 19 years, they have basically been the AFC North, right? It was, and that was always also a very competitive football game, Ravens Steelers, right? And there was even jokes made that, well, the Browns and Steelers really is not even a rivalry anymore. It's really the Ravens and the Steelers, right? Just because of the pedigree of those two teams. Now, I do think Browns fans have a little delusion about wearing brown and orange glasses, and I'll kind of explain where I'm going with this. We want where we're at to like AFC Championship game. And I guess where I'm going with this is, I think Browns fans would be elated if they stepped back and looked. If we could get somebody of Mike Tomlin's pedigree, and what I mean by that is if we can be 500 or better every single season fighting for a playoff spot or winning the division, I think that's a great place for an organization to be. And guess what? The Cleveland Browns just aren't there, right? They're way up or they're way down, right? Same with John Harbaugh. 12 playoff victories, has a Super Bowl trophy with Joe Flacco, ironically, back in the day. Not one with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't think John Harbaugh is the problem. And I'll say this, and I've said this publicly. Lamar Jackson's an amazing quarterback. He's a great regular season quarterback, but he's 3-5 in the playoffs. Coaches don't play the positions, right? So at the end of the day, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin have probably got the most out of players that the other coaches may have not gotten out of. I would take that all day long in Cleveland to have a guy that just has a winning record and is fighting for the playoffs every year. Like you can sign me up for that all day long instead of this 5 season, 5 wins, 6 wins, 11, now back to 5. Like I just want stability in the organization. And to your point, if we can bring in an older seasoned veteran coach in, because the Cleveland Browns have never, ever brought in a former head coach since 99 that I'm aware of that actually was a head coach in the National Football League to coach this team. Second, along those lines, any coach that's ever gotten fired from the Cleveland Browns, I think this might be true as well, didn't get a head coaching job again. Probably Stefanski will be the first one. So what does that say about our head coaching hires, right? Like at the end of the day, right? That just tells me that clearly they weren't it, right? So you got to get it right here, because this is a guy that you're probably going to give him a 5-year contract, and hopefully he gets you to the new dome and builds a competitive team on the field over the next couple of years, or starts to build that competitive team.
I mean, you make it sound like Cleveland's the place for coaches to go die. Pretty bleak. But yeah, I mean, we want November, December football to matter.
Quarterbacks go here to die, so coaches too, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with you. At this point, November and December football mattering is really like the next step, and I think what all Cleveland fans would really want. And so hopefully that hits with the next hire. Maybe one more thing we get to before we kind of wrap up and make our picks. Just kind of reviewing first round of the playoffs. Wildcard weekend just came to an end, and we had a pretty entertaining time. Just kind of recap everything.
One of the best games I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the slate was excellent, and really there was only one game that wasn't even close, two. But just to kind of review things, Bears came back to beat the Packers after being down like 16, 31-27. That throw by Caleb Williams, kind of off his back foot over the top, just dropping it in on fourth down. I mean, both Allie and I looked at each other and our jaws hit the floor. I mean, it was unbelievable, really exciting to see, and just wow, the Bears are this year's cardiac kids, this year's comeback kids.
Yes, I agree with that.
It was so much fun. 49ers hang on to beat the Eagles, the defending champs, 23-19. That was something we didn't touch on. Is Nick Sirianni going to still be coach? Obviously, he hasn't been fired yet, but there was some people who were thinking, even though they just won last year, could he get fired after this game? But I don't think it's going to happen.
Did you see the kid that got interviewed? Oh, that went viral. So you and Allie need to look this up. There is a kid that a local reporter went and interviewed, and this kid must be like 10 or 11 years old, and he just like totally tore into like all the problems. Like, this guy should be flipping burgers. Like this kid like went off the rails. Like, they just caught him at the kids are like, they'll say anything. But you just got to look up Philadelphia kid post game. You will just lie, because this kid is like, he's like a reporter at 11 years old. Like, he is just like has all the facts and everything of what should have happened in that game. And he's like no nonsense. Like, this kid's like, he's got a future.
Awesome. I'll look it up. Rams came back in an exciting back and forth win against the Panthers to end up winning 34-31. Patriots took care of business, handled the Chargers 16-3. I mean, they harassed Justin Herbert. He had no time back there. He looked like, a man scared. The Bills beat the Jags, kind of similar fashion to the Rams. And then the Texans, really, their defense just took over against the Steelers, despite CJ having 3 turnovers. And that was pretty fun to see, just the Texans kind of, handle the Steelers. So, I mean, with those 6 games, I mean, Dustin, what was your biggest surprise and what's your biggest takeaway from Wildcard Weekend heading into the divisional round?
Well, my biggest surprise, I think, would be what happened in Pittsburgh. Because, love or hate Pittsburgh fans, they're loud, they show up for their game, and that was just an ass kicking, right? I mean, that was a beat down, right? And the Texans are a good team, but I just felt like I don't know what happened there in that game. Now, I will say this, and Allie knows this, I picked the Bills to win that Jacksonville game, but I can tell you with 5 minutes left, I couldn't tell you who was going to win that football game, because it was back and forth. Like, anybody could have won that game when it was Trevor Lawrence versus Josh Allen. Like, and they kind of let Josh score at the end there so they could get the ball back. Like, it was one of those things. Like, that was a great game. So that, to me, that one didn't surprise me, but probably the Steelers game surprised me. And then, of course, the Bears game. Like, I don't know how the hell the Packers allowed that to happen, because was it like the largest comeback and worst comeback for Packers to lose? I think something like that. It was statistically, for them to come back from that was crazy enough, and to be able to let the Bears come back in that game was wild. So those two probably are the ones that probably surprised me, was that Bears and obviously the Steelers game. I don't know if they just gave up, or I don't know what happened in that game, but I expected way more, because I mean, this was probably Aaron Rodgers' last game, and that's how you want to go out us on a pick six? Are you
Last throw was a pick six.
Yeah, I mean, like, are we serious right now? Like, is this what we're putting on the field? It reminded me, honestly, you know what it reminded me a lot of? When the Browns went in there in 2020 and beat them, and went on to the second round of the playoffs. That's kind of what it gave me reminiscence, like, where did the Steelers go? They're flat at home. It was wild to me what happened in that game.
It's crazy. Jason said, I wanted Chubb to score so bad in that game. You and me both, brother. I had a little bit of money on Nick Chubb first touchdown, and it became so close. Unfortunately, Christian Kirk was the first touchdown scorer, and Ali said it multiple times, Christian Kirk, but then never actually put the bet in. So that was a little disappointing too. For me, biggest surprise, I think, was the Rams' struggles against the Panthers. The NFC South is abysmal. And, I mean, the Panthers didn't even win their final game and still won the division and got into the playoffs, if you can figure that out. And so it's right. We expected the Rams to win by double digits. They came off a tough loss, losing the division with what people thought were probably the Super Bowl favorites through November and December, and just how they were playing. And so I was really surprised that the Rams, it came down to the ropes, and Matt had to put that team on his back to end up winning that game. And I don't know what's going to happen in this divisional round. The playoffs are so wide open right now. I am very, very, very excited about this weekend and just kind of what's going to come ahead in terms of this next slate of games.
I agree. Well, should we get to our picks?
Yeah, I think we got one more video to play before that, and let's do it.
Yep.
Here we go, Brownies Nations. We are here with Larry Lorello at Huntington Field to talk about Here We Go Brownies wine and all the other amazing wines at Lorello Vineyards.
Yeah, I just want to tell all of you guys, it's harvest season right now. We just started with some of the whites, and reds will be coming in next. Stop out the winery, all the wineries out in Northeast Ohio, to check out all the harvest and what we're doing out there. It's a really good time right now.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
Here we go.
Woof, 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 woof.
I got to go back and say, just Jason kind of commented saying, yes, it almost happened. Like it was, we were on pins and needles with that game in terms of the first touchdown. It's crazy what, putting $5 on a game does to you. But when Woody Marks got injured, of course, I'm not celebrating someone getting injured, but it was like, oh my gosh, like Nick Chubb's going to have a chance here. And they're on the 6-yard line and it's first down, and they fake the run to Nick Chubb, and then he's blocking, and then it's exciting, and it adds another element to the game. So I'm happy.
You know what though? Nick, you know what? This would be poetic for the Cleveland Browns. Bernie Kosar got a Super Bowl ring with the Dallas Cowboys. How crazy would it be if Nick Chubb got a Super Bowl ring with the Houston? It'll kill me. It'll make me throw up. But I mean, it's not entirely not possible. So.
No, it's not. I mean, just like Stafford going to the Rams after so many years with the Lions. All right, let's get to our picks. So last week, Dustin and Allie tied for the third time this season. So currently the record sits at 7-4-3 in favor of Allie. But what that means, Dustin, is while you cannot win, there is a chance for you to tie and finish 7-7-3 if you go 3-0 in the divisional round, championship weekend, and the Super Bowl. So
a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I hope you did your research because these picks are vitally important for you.
All right, so I'm going to have you go with Allie's pick first,
okay,
and go with the game, and then I'll.
All right, first matchup on Saturday at 3:30. We have the Bills at the Broncos. The Bills at the Broncos. That game's in Denver. Allie's pick is the Broncos. I'm going to make some picks here too, just to kind of keep it interesting. I'm going with her. I think the Broncos get it. I think, listen, we love Josh Allen. He is that team, but their offense is struggling. They do not have a receiver. They got James Cook, who is the leading rusher on the season for the NFL, but just I think that Broncos defense in Mile High Stadium, like there's something going on, something cooking in Denver right now, and I think this is where the Bills stop, which is a shame to say because the AFC otherwise is wide open. You don't have Kansas City. You don't have Baltimore, the usual suspects. But I'm with Allie and the Broncos here.
So, yeah, Jason, you joined a little late. Yes, we did start the show early. Allie is severely under the weather, so she is not feeling well. All right, so I'm going to take a pass on this one because I just want to see where her thoughts are on what's the next game. She's got the Broncos in this one.
Next game is Saturday night, 7 p.m. 49ers at Seahawks. This is a big game. This is another divisional matchup. This division was the best division of football this year. It was just excellent cinema every time these teams played each other. Allie picked the 49ers. She's going with her gut. Last 2 weeks, she's done that.
Okay.
I picked the Eagles. She picked the 49ers last week, and the 49ers pulled off, and that's just kind of where her gut's at. I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this matchup.
All right, for me, this is easy. Kittle's out. That's a big part of their offense, Seahawks. So go to the next one. Then I'll come back to the Bronco one.
Okay. All right. So on Sunday at 2 p.m., we have Texans at Patriots. Allie and I both agree. I think this is where the Texans their season comes to an end. Unfortunately, the Patriots are an immovable force, and we're both going Patriots here.
Give me the Patriots there as well.
Yep. And then on Sunday at 5:30, it's the Rams at the Bears. Can the Cinderella story, the Cardiac Kids, continue this triumphant return to greatness in Midway? Allie's going with the Rams. The Rams kind of turn it around. I don't know. I think last week I would pick the Rams as well. But seeing the way they struggled with the Panthers and knowing the Bears have a pretty dangerous weapon, and this game's in Chicago, I mean, these Chicago fans are ravenous, man. This organization is really hungry for a run here. I think I'm going to go Bears here.
So I would go Bears, but because I know Allie's picks and I got to be strategic throughout the rest of the year here, I'm going to go with the Rams as well because the one game that I feel really good about is that Seahawks.
Okay.
Mariners game. So
all right. So you're going Seahawks, you're going Patriots, you're going Rams.
Yep.
And then what about that first game, Bills at Broncos?
And then I'll go Broncos with everything on the line for me with the Seahawks because it's in Seattle. It's the 12th man. That's going to be a really, really tough place to go in there and win.
So Seahawks are the difference there. So that is the one game you guys picked differently, and probably honestly the best game of the weekend. Looking at it, they're all going to be good. But I mean, in terms of just what we've seen throughout the season, that one's really exciting.
Yeah, then you're down to the championship games, which those are going to be a little. Yeah, it depends on who wins, but quite honestly, I could honestly also see the Bills going in there and upsetting the Broncos, and the only reason I say that is because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. I mean, I would not be shocked by that.
For sure.
I think Josh Allen kind of puts the entire team on his back. And by the way, Shakir, I think a lot of people think he's the next Edelman. Like, he catches pretty much everything that's there. Like, he's one of those guys. Out of Boise State, I've got to root for that kid. So he's good. And I told Allie on this podcast, I said, the Browns should go get Edelman or should go get Shakir. And look, he's proven to be that wide receiver that we don't have any wide receivers. We can use him right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Any closing thoughts, David, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think a lot of talk about coaches, and we're gonna have to get into this next week for sure. You and Al, or in 2 weeks or whenever we're back on. But
we'll have a coach probably by then, I would assume.
Yes, so that'll be obviously kind of dominating the conversation. But one other really big piece of news today that I think has serious implications for the Browns is Dante Moore, quarterback at Oregon, is returning to school. And so, I don't know, you look at this draft class, and I think there's only one first-round QB, and that's Fernando Mendoza. I don't think anybody else gets a first-round grade, and that changes things a lot for the Jets. It changes things for the Browns, and it's going to be very interesting to see what that strategy is moving forward now because unless you're the number one pick, I don't think you should be taking quarterback top 10. So I just think that that's going to be a lot of interesting discussion as the season winds down and we start getting in the draft talk here in February and March. But yeah, I think that's big news here. This transfer portal declaring versus NIL, staying for money, developing what guys are deciding to do. It is changing football so much, and I love seeing what's going to happen as these guys make the transition from college to the NFL. But that's a big deal.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you're right. There is really one quote unquote first round quality quarterback, and that's Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner. So, but for the Browns, that's maybe not a bad thing because now that we kind of look at this going in, the 2026 class of quarterbacks in the NFL could be quite the crop, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you're going to have, probably the kid from Oregon. You'll have Manning. I mean, if the Browns don't figure it out in 2025, 5, right? And they were like,
27, yeah.
yeah, this guy is not on our roster. Then you can be aggressive, right? In 2020, that next draft in 2027, because there's going to be a lot more quarterbacks. Now we hope the Browns obviously have a lot better record, but that's the other, the domino, right? Like if you're going to have to really get aggressive to get up to the top 5. So.
Yep. Well, this was fun. Thanks for letting me do this. I'm sure with everybody behind me, we all wish Allie the best in terms of getting well and feeling better. She's a trooper. She's going to get through this, but I appreciate you all giving me the chance to kind of fill in for her tonight.
You did great.
I appreciate that. So I guess in the words of Allie, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.
SOS.